Good morning. This is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on my part series of the professional sports teams that didn't win the championship during that season. This is part 35. Now we're talking about the 1997 Cleveland Indians, a team that will go to the World Series at that time for the second time in 3 years, but unfortunately they came up short of the end of the stick. They lost to an expansion team, the Florida Marlins. Now, the Florida Marlins was not truly a typical expansion team. I'm going to go over that, talk about the players that are on it, and take it from there. But yeah, they lost to the Florida Marlins in Game 7. Edgar Renteria hit a base hit, line drive base hit to center field, drove in the winning run. Then Craig Counsell scored on the game-winning run, and they was able to win the World Series. That team was managed by Jim Leyland, who managed the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jim Leyland, he had, Bobby Bonilla was on that team, Barry Sheffield, Devon White, Al Leiter, Charles Johnson was the catcher at that time, Craig Counsell, Edgar Renteria. So they had a lot of, mixture of youth, but a lot of veterans on that team. So they wasn't your typical, you know, expansion team because you don't win a World Series without, you know, good, players on it that can play. But but this is all about the 1997 Cleveland Indians. Again, if you were a Cleveland Indian fan at that time, this was the best of times to be a Cleveland Indian fan because they were in the World Series twice in the last 3 years. They lost in '95, obviously to the eventual champion Atlanta Braves. Then in '97, they go back to the World Series, and then they lose to the Florida Marlins in 7 games. So let's look into it. Now the regular season record was 86-75. 86-75. And they made a lot of moves. They actually traded Kenny Lofton to the Braves for Marquise Grissom and David Justice. Think about that. David Justice, the same guy who beat the Indians when he hit that home run in Game 6. It was a clutch home run by Justice to go up 1-0. They won 1-0 in that Game 6 to clinch the championship for the Braves. So now he was a Cleveland Indian. Interesting at that time why they traded him, because he did so much to lead them to the championship 2 years earlier. Now again, I remember this team obviously, but time goes on, you just forget about certain things. But anyway, they had a loaded team, man. They was very loaded with David Justice's addition, who was a good player, not a great player, but really good. He hit 305 home runs in his career. Had a 279 batting average. Drove in 1,017 runs. Not a great player by any means, but very good. Very serviceable. Did his thing. Won Rookie of the Year. Won 2 championships. Did a lot for the Yankees. He came to the Yankees in 2000. But 305 home runs, man, that was a lot. A lot of home runs, but that doesn't, equal a Hall of Fame career. Omar Vizquel, Matt Williams was on his team. Tony Fernandez, Jim Thome, Sandy Alomar Jr., Marquise Grissom, Manny Ramirez obviously was doing his thing. Very young player, but doing his thing. I mean, this team was loaded at that time. Loaded. So, look at the stats of players that stood out during that season. Well, Jim Thome definitely stood out. 40 home runs, 102 RBIs, hit 286. Sandy Alomar Jr., 21 home runs, 83 RBIs, hit 324. Tony Fernandez, 44 RBIs, 11 home runs, hit 286. Matt Williams, 105 RBIs. He drove in, hit 32 home runs. Manny Ramirez, 88 RBIs, 26 home runs, hit a batting average of 328. And 101 RBIs driven in by David Justice, 33 home runs, and hit 329. So he was definitely a guy that definitely was worth being traded for. at that time. Okay, so enough of that. Let's get into their run to the World Series. First and foremost, they played the Yankees in '97, and this is an interesting series. In Game One, the Indians beat the Yankees 8-6. But the next game, Cleveland won 7-5. Then Jacobs Field, the Yankees won Game 3, 6-1. And then Game 4, Cleveland won 3-2, and then they won in Game 5, 4-3, and beat the Yankees in the best of 5 and advanced to the championship series. And they beat the Baltimore Orioles. See how many games they won. See, they won Game 1. So Baltimore won Game 1. They had the home field advantage. 3-0. They lost to Baltimore, but Game 2 they won 5-4. Game 3, they won 2-1 in 12 innings. Cleveland won Game 4 in 8-7. Game 5, Baltimore beat Cleveland 4-2. And Camden Yards in Baltimore, Cleveland won 1-0 in 11 innings. Game 6. So let's look at the World Series. Now you think at this time, obviously Cleveland was the favorite because you're going against the Florida Marlins team that was, again, an expansion team, if you will, and they were heavy underdogs. But they beat Cleveland 4-3 because Edgar Renteria hit a walk-off single right to center field. I remember very well. Right in deep into center field, and they won in 7 games. Livan Hernandez was the MVP. Now, Jim Leyland managed this team. They had a better record than the Cleveland Indians. They were 92-70. But this team had a lot of veterans on it. They were very, very good. So we're going to look at their roster real quick. I'm going to look at the roster. Okay. The roster. Obviously, they were managed by Jim Leyland. So look at the players that was on this team. Charles Johnson, Jeff Conine, Bobby Bonilla, Edgar Renteria, Moses Alou, Devon White, Gary Sheffield, Darren Daulton, Craig Counsell, Cliff Floyd, Kurt Abbott, Jim Eisenreich. They had some players, man, that was really, really good. You know, Kevin Brown, Alex Hernandez, Al Leiter. Very, very good team. So that's what it's all about. So let me get into the World Series 97. I'm going to go over the games, the matchups. Okay, Game 1, Florida took Game 1 7-4. It was a matchup between Orel Hershiser and Livan Hernandez. And this also was the first World Series game ever played in the state of Florida. That never happened. So, Livan Hernandez took the mound. He gave up a run in the first thanks to a double by Bill Roberts, RBI single by David Justice. Indian starter Orel Hershiser got by the first 2 innings unscathed. However, In the third inning, Marlins tied it with an RBI ground out by Edgar Renteria. Then in the fourth inning, Moses Alou hit a 3-run homer to put the Marlins up 4-1. Charles Johnson hit a home run to make it 5-1. Then Manny Ramirez hit a home run to make it 5-2 to cut the lead to 3. But then Orel Hershiser allowed a walk with 1 out and single in the bottom of the inning before Jeff Conine hit an RBI single to make it 6-2. So they won 7-4, did their thing. So, but game 2, Cleveland bounced back and won 6-1. Great pitching by Chad O'Jay. RBI singles by David Justice after the Omar Vizquel double with 1 out. So we had that. OJ settled in, did not allow any more runs in 6 2/3 innings. Brown pitched well into the 5th when the Indians took the lead by stringing together 3 singles by Matt Williams, Sandy Alomar Jr., and Marquise Grissom. Later in the inning, with runners on the second and third, Bip Roberts drove in a pair of runs with a single up the middle, giving the Tribe a 4-1 lead. The 3-run lead ballooned to 5 when Alomar hit a laser into the left field stands for a 2-run home run in the 6th. The Indians 6-1 win, tied the series up, headed to Cleveland. Now, Game 3 was a high-scoring game, of equal proportion, because Florida won 14-11 in Cleveland to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Charles Nagy faced Al Leiter. Both pitchers didn't pitch well. Gary Sheffield started the first inning with a home run to left. Then Indians came back with 2 runs, so broken back singles by Matt Williams and Sandy Alomar Jr. With the bases loaded, Sheffield tied the game in the 3rd before Florida took a 3-2 lead with a Darren Daulton home run. Indians got a gift in the bottom of the 4th when they drew 4 free passes through a throwing error. Then a throwing error by Bobby Bonilla allowed Manny Ramirez's single, allowed 2 runs to score, so the Tribe was up 7-3 on Jim Thome's 2-run homer. In the 5th inning, knocked out Al Leiter. Then Jim Eisenreich hit a 2-run homer to cut the 7-5. The Craig Counsell hit a leadoff single off Brian Anderson, moved to second on a ground out. Then Edgar Renteria's single and Gary Sheffield's double off Mike Jackson blew a save, drove in a run, making the score 7-7. So in the 9th inning, Bonilla drew a leadoff walk off of Eric Plunk, the reliever, scored on Daulton's single, aided by an error that led Daulton to go to 3rd after a strikeout to Alou, an intentional walk to pitch hitter Cliff Floyd, an error by first baseman Thome on Plunk's pickoff, simply and allowed Daulton to score. So after Charles Johnson singled Alvin Mormon, Plunk relieved Plunk, an error by second baseman Tony Fernandez on Counsell's ground ball allowed Floyd to score. After Mormon retired Devon White, a walk to Renteria lowered the bases before Jose Mesa relieved Mormon and allowed 2-run singles to Sheffield and Bonilla, aided by a wild pitch that gave the Marlins a 14-7 lead. Then the bottom of the inning, the Indians lowered the base on a walk and 2 singles with 1 out off of Rob Nin before Tony Fernandez sacrificed fly. Marquise Grissom's single scored a run each. Then Bip Roberts, a 2-run double, cut the lead to 14-11. But Omar Vizquel grounded out to end the game. Dennis Good got the win in relief by tossing the scoreless 8th, and Plunk got the loss. This was the highest scoring game for 20 years till the 5th game of the 2017 World Series between Houston and Astros and Los Angeles Dodgers. Marlins batter Gary Sheffield had 5 RBIs in the game to lead all batters. So game 4, Cleveland had to get this win, and they did by evening the series at 2-2 as they won 10-3. It was very cold. It actually snowed. It was like 38 degrees. It remained the coldest as of 2019 at that time. Wind chill made it as low as 15 degrees. 2 rookies was on the mound, Tony Sanders and Jared Wright. So Omar Vizquel started off with a single with 1 out before Manny Ramirez's 2-run home run put the innings up 2-0. So Matt Williams then singled with 2 outs. and scored on Sandy Alamore's double. In the third, Ramirez drew a leadoff walk, moved to second on an error, scored on David Justice's single. After another walk, Alamore single scored Justice. Third walk lowered the bases. Antonio Fonseca relieved Saunders and allowed an RBI single to Tony Fernandez. Then the Marlins got on the board in the fourth on Jim Eisenreich's RBI single with 2 on. Then Moses Alou hit a 2-run homer after a walk in the sixth, cut the Indians' lead to 6-3. Morris bases loaded, ground out off of Ed Vosper, made it 7-3 Indians. Next inning, Fernandez hit a leadoff single, moved to second on a ground out, and scored on Brian Giles' single. In the eighth, Williams' 2-run home run after a walk capped the game's scoring at 10-3 as the Indians tied the series at 2 games apiece. Wright allowed 3 runs in 6 sharp innings, and Brian Anderson wrapped up Wright's win with a 3-inning save. So in Game 5, this is critical. Game 5, the Florida Marlins won 8-7 in Cleveland. As Livan Hernandez went up 2-0, 2-0. He was 2-0. This is a rematch of Game 1 matchup between Hernandez and Orel Hershiser. The Marlins struck first, but Darren Daulton hit a ground rule double, scoring Charles Johnson after he singled. After a walk to Craig Counsell, Devon McDonald hit an RBI double, made it 2-0 Marlins. The Indians cut it to 2-1 the bottom of the inning when Jim Thome triple, scored on Sandy Alamore's single. Alamore hit a 3-run home run after 2 walks to Thome, and Matt Williams to put the Indians up 4-2. Overall, they won this game 8-7. Then Game 6, Cleveland won 4-1. And then Game 7, in extra innings, 3-2 was the final score. It was the first time in 6 years at that time a 7th game would decide the World Series. And like I said, Edgar Renteria hit the game-winning base hit in the 11th inning. This was with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Edgar Renteria stepped to the plate, lined Nagy's 0-1 slider up the middle, beyond Nagy's reach in between middle infielders Fernandez and Vizquel, and Counsell scored on a game-winning run. So that concludes a look at the Cleveland Indians, a team that should have won the championship in 1997, but they didn't. This is the professional sports teams that didn't win the championship during that season. Part 30. I think it's part 35. I want to make sure I'm correct. Part 35, 1997, Cleveland Indians. The 1997 Cleveland Indians. Please like, subscribe, comment on this video. Until then, talk to you tomorrow.